Chapter 9, The Air Within Part 1. The fall of the cradle. The sky above the cradle tore open with thousands of portals. Ships emerged from each one. Ancient ships, without a single light, without visible engines. They simply appeared from the void, as if they had been waiting there all along. The fleet of the architects. Jack stood in the middle of the ancient city, staring into the sky. His eyes still glowed with golden light, but he barely noticed. He was hearing something else. Thousands of voices, all whispering at once. He has returned. The air has returned. Open. Jack clenched his fists. Be quiet. The voices vanished. For several seconds, there was silence. Kale looked at him through his silver mask. You stopped them? Yes. Good. Kale raised his weapon. Because you're going to need control now. The first volley struck the city. The sky erupted in light. A massive wave of energy swept over the towers and slammed into the cradle's protective shield. The shield held, but the second impact made the ground tremble. They're attacking, one of the soldiers shouted. Kale turned toward Jack. We need to get beneath the city. Why? Because they're not trying to destroy the cradle. He looked toward the sky. They're trying to prevent it from fully awakening. Jack froze. And what happens if it wakes up? Kale slowly turned toward him. Then the war ends. And who wins? Kale said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Jack ran. They rushed into an ancient tunnel. Behind them, Alliance soldiers opened fire on the approaching drones. The golden walls of the cradle began to move. The corridor changed right before their eyes. Doors opened. Stairs emerged from thin air, as if the city itself were showing them the way. Jack stopped. A massive door stood before him. There was no symbol on it, only a single inscription. For the heir who must never remember. Jack placed his hand against the metal. The door opened. Beyond it was a chamber, and at its center stood a chair. Small, child-sized. Jack froze. He recognized it. I've been here. Kale remained silent. When I was a child, yes. Jack turned toward him. You brought me here. No. Kale removed his mask. Your father brought you. A memory suddenly flashed before Jack. A young boy. His father. And Kale. But now Jack saw something he had never noticed before. His father was holding his hand. And he was crying. Why were you crying? Jack whispered. The answer didn't come from Kale. It came from the chair itself. Because he knew what you would become. Jack stepped backward. Who said that? The chair began to glow. A recording appeared across its surface. An image of Jack's father. But the recording was dated 20 years before Jack was born. Jack's face went pale. In the recording, his father looked directly into the camera. If you're seeing this, it means the plan has failed. He paused. Jack. The image flickered. You were never supposed to awaken. The recording ended. At that exact moment, the entire cradle shook. Thump. Then another beat. Thump. But now the heartbeat wasn't coming from the core of the planet. It was coming from Jack. Kale stared at him in horror. No. Golden energy began rising along Jack's arms. And somewhere far away, aboard the ancient fleet, one of the commanders received a signal. A single line appeared on the screen. The heart has chosen a host. The commander slowly raised his head. Find him. A pause. Do not kill him. What should we do with him? The commander looked at Jack's image. Bring him home. Bring him home. Those words remained on the screen of the ancient ship for several seconds. The fleet commander slowly rose from his chair. Beyond the transparent walls of the command chamber stretched the endless darkness of space. Thousands of architect ships were moving toward the cradle. But the commander wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Jack's image. After all these thousands of years, he touched the screen. At last, deep within the cradle, Jack stood motionless. Golden energy continued to rise along his arms. It didn't hurt. Quite the opposite. It felt familiar. Too familiar. As if this power had always been a part of him. Jack, step away from the chair, Kale ordered. Jack didn't answer. He stared at his hands. Golden light flowed between his fingers. I can feel him. Who? Jack raised his head. The one who's inside. Cale froze. What are you hearing? Not a voice. Jack closed his eyes. Memories. And suddenly, the room disappeared. He was back in the past. His father stood before him. But now Jack saw him much younger than he had appeared in the previous memory. His father was holding a baby. Jack. Cale stood beside him. Are you sure? Cale asked. No. Jack's father looked down at the child. But we have no other choice. If the architects find out, they already know. Cale lowered his gaze. Then why did they allow him to be born? Jack's father looked beyond the room. Because they think he will become a weapon. He looked at the child. But they're wrong. Suddenly, the image changed. Jack saw a gigantic machine. A child was inside it, surrounded by golden light. Dozens of architects stood behind the glass. One of them spoke. His consciousness is unstable. Another answered. Then divide him. Jack felt a chill. Divide. Me. The image disappeared. But just before it faded completely, he heard his father's voice. If one day he hears the heartbeat, a pause. It means they've found the other half. Jack's eyes suddenly opened. He was back inside the cradle. Cale was standing beside him. What did you see? Jack looked at him. They divided me. Cale's face went pale. What? My memory. Jack pressed a hand against his head. They took part of my consciousness. Cale slowly shook his head. No. Where is it? Cale didn't answer. Jack grabbed him by the armor. Where is my other half? I don't know. You're lying. Golden energy exploded around Jack. Cale was thrown several meters backward and crashed onto the stone floor. The Alliance soldiers raised their weapons toward Jack. Don't fire, Cale shouted. Jack breathed heavily. He looked at his hands. The golden light disappeared. I didn't mean to. I know. Cale slowly stood. He looked at Jack with concern. But now you understand why they want to bring you back. At that moment, a tremendous roar shook the city. Everyone looked up. Through the ruined ceiling, they could see one of the ancient ships descending directly above the cradle. It was enormous. So enormous that its shadow covered the entire city. The ship's doors opened, but no one emerged. Instead, a hologram appeared in the air. A man materialized before Jack, tall, wearing black armor. His face was hidden, but his voice. Jack recognized it instantly. It was the voice he had heard in his earliest memories. Jack. Jack froze. Who are you? The figure tilted his head slightly. You really don't remember me. Answer me. I was there on the day you were born. Jack felt his heart begin to race. Are you an architect? No. Then who are you? The figure stepped forward. Your brother. Silence. Even Cale said nothing. Jack stared at the hologram. I don't have a brother. The figure answered. You did. Then the image began to fade. But before it disappeared completely, the man said, Your father created both of us. Jack felt something inside him break. Wait. The hologram vanished. But in the next second, thousands of architect ships changed course simultaneously. They were no longer surrounding the cradle. They began to leave. They're retreating. One of the soldiers asked. Cale stared at the sky. No. Then what's happening? Cale slowly turned toward Jack. They're opening the way. To where? At that moment, the entire cradle erupted in golden light. The city began to unfold. Towers separated. Streets sank beneath the ground. And at the very center of the planet, a gigantic passage began to open. Light poured from within. Not golden. Not white. Black. Jack heard the heartbeat. Thump. Silence. Thump. He took a step forward. And for the first time, the voice inside him spoke more than a single word. It spoke a name. A name Jack had never heard before. Yet somehow, he had always known it. Aaron. Jack whispered. Who is Aaron? Cale stared into the opening passage. His face had turned completely white. That isn't a name. Then what is it? Cale raised his weapon. The name of something the architects feared more than death itself. Jack stared into the black abyss. And somewhere deep within, Something opened its eyes. Part 3. Aaron. The black passage continued to expand. Its edges disappeared deep beneath the surface of the planet, as if the cradle itself were being torn apart from within. The golden light vanished. Everything around them fell into darkness, except Jack. He stood before the passage, feeling something calling to him. Not with words, not with a voice, with a pull. "Jack, don't go any closer," Cale said. Jack didn't stop. "I have to know what's in there." "You don't understand." Cale grabbed him by the shoulder. "We have no idea what is behind that door." Jack looked at him. "You're wrong." He pointed into the darkness. "You know." Cale remained silent. Jack saw the fear in his eyes. "You've seen this before." "Yes." "What is in there?" Cale slowly lowered his hand. "A prison." Jack frowned. "For whom?" Cale looked into the abyss. "For Aaron." Suddenly, a voice appeared. It didn't come from the passage. It appeared inside the mind of every person standing within the cradle. "You should not have come." The soldiers raised their weapons. The scientist stepped backward. Jack didn't move. "Are you Aaron?" Silence. Then the answer came. "I am what remains." The ground trembled. A gigantic structure began rising from the depths of the passage. At first, Jack could see only its upper section. Then enormous metallic rings. Then dozens of glowing energy channels. It wasn't a creature. It was a machine. But something was alive inside it. "My God," one of the scientists whispered. Cale stared at the structure. "They didn't imprison Aaron." "Then what is this?" "They imprisoned his body." Jack felt a chill. His consciousness. Cale looked at him. His consciousness became the cradle itself. And suddenly, Jack understood. The heartbeat. The voices. The visions. The cradle wasn't simply holding Aaron. The cradle was Aaron. The entire planet was a living prison. And Jack was its key. Suddenly, a figure appeared before Jack. At first, it was barely visible. Then it became solid. A man, tall, with long silver hair. His body looked almost human. But his eyes were completely black. There were no pupils. He looked directly at Jack. "You've changed." Jack froze. "You're Aaron." The man smiled. "That is the name they gave me. And your real name. You know it." Jack felt a sharp pain inside his head. Thousands of images flashed before his eyes. He saw a child, himself, and another boy. They stood side by side, both surrounded by golden light, both connected by a single stream of energy. Then the architects severed the connection. One child was taken away. The other was left behind. Jack whispered, "We were twins." Aaron said nothing. "You're my brother." Aaron looked at him. "Not exactly." Jack frowned. "What does that mean?" "We were born from the same consciousness." Jack felt something tighten inside his chest. "Then which one of us is real?" Aaron stepped closer. "Both." A pause. "And neither." A massive hologram appeared behind Aaron. A galaxy materialized before them. Then it split into two halves. One was golden. The other was black. "The architects made a mistake," Aaron said. "What mistake?" "They believed they could divide the first consciousness." Jack stared at him. "The first consciousness?" Aaron nodded. "The source? The creator of the architects?" "No." Aaron looked directly at Jack. "The creator of everything that existed before them." Jack felt his heartbeat accelerate. "What did they do?" "They became afraid." The hologram showed an ancient civilization. Planets. Stars. Billions of beings. Then everything began to disappear. They realized the first consciousness could not be destroyed. The hologram erupted in a massive flash. So they divided it. Golden energy separated from black. One part was imprisoned inside the cradle. Aaron looked at Jack. "And the other?" Jack already knew the answer. "Inside me." Aaron nodded. "Exactly." Cale suddenly raised his weapon. "You're lying." Aaron didn't even look at him. "You know it's true. If Jack is the second half of the first consciousness." Cale stopped. Aaron finished the sentence. "Then when they are reunited." The entire cradle shook. Thump. Jack felt the golden energy inside him ignite. Thump. The black passage expanded. Thump. And this time, the heartbeat came from two places at once. From the cradle. And from Jack. Eren looked at him. Do you understand what will happen? Jack shook his head. No. Eren smiled. Then I will show you. He extended his hand. Jack felt an incredible pull. Golden energy began flowing out of his body. Kale shouted, Jack, don't do it. But it was already too late. For a single moment, Jack saw everything. The birth of the first stars. The rise of the architects. The creation of the seals. The first war. The division of the first consciousness. And his father. He stood before the architects. In his arms, he held a young Jack. And he said, if you take him. He raised his eyes. I will destroy everything you have created. Then the vision changed. Jack's father stood before Eren. You must wait. How long? Until he remembers. And if he never remembers? Jack's father looked at him. Then you must find him. The vision disappeared. Jack collapsed to his knees. He breathed heavily. Kale approached him. What did you see? Jack raised his head. There was no fear in his eyes anymore. Only understanding. My father wasn't trying to hide me from the architects. Kale froze. He was trying to hide me from. Jack looked at and myself. Suddenly, Eren disappeared. His voice remained in the air. Now you remember. Jack stood. But before he could say anything, every system within the cradle activated simultaneously. Thousands of red points appeared across the sky. Kale looked upward. No. Jack raised his head. What? Kale answered. That isn't the architect fleet. The red points began moving. Fast. Far too fast. There were countless of them. Kale tightened his grip on his weapon. Someone else has arrived. A new signal echoed through space. Not a voice. Not a message. An order. The first consciousness has awakened. A pause. Then. Begin the purge. Every red point ignited simultaneously. And the cradle, for the first time, began to fear. Part 4. The first gate. The heartbeat stopped. For 3 seconds, the entire galaxy was silent. Jack stood before the first gate, staring into the impossible darkness beyond it. The gate was no longer a monument. It was open. And something had looked back. Behind him, thousands of ships from worlds that had once hunted one another remained frozen in formation. Human vessels. Arcadian cruisers. Ancient architect ships. Entire fleets that had only days ago been enemies. Now they waited together. Because everyone had heard the same thing. That heartbeat. The sound had crossed billions of light years. And now it was gone. Jack slowly raised the ancient medallion hanging around his neck. It was cold. For the first time since he had found it. It wasn't glowing. Jack. Lena's voice came through the communication channel. He turned. She stood beside the command console of the flagship, her face pale. What is it? Jack asked. Come back. There was something in her voice that made him stop. Why? Because we just received a transmission. Jack looked toward the gate. From where? Lena hesitated. From inside. The bridge fell silent. Jack approached the console. A single line of text appeared on the screen. You are not the first to open the gate. Jack's blood ran cold. What does that mean? Lena shook her head. We don't know. Another line appeared. You are the first to survive it. Jack stared at the message. Then the screen went black. A deep vibration moved through the ship. Not the heartbeat. Something different. Something closer. Jack turned toward the viewport. The darkness beyond the first gate had changed. A faint light appeared. At first, it looked like a star. Then it grew. And grew. Until an enormous structure emerged from the darkness. Jack couldn't breathe. It was a ship. But unlike anything he had ever seen. It was larger than a planet. Its surface was covered with countless glowing symbols, ancient structures, and enormous rings rotating around its central body. Lena whispered. That's impossible. Jack knew why. He had seen that design before. In the ruins. In the visions, in the memories hidden inside the medallion, it was the ship of the architects. But there was one difference. This ship wasn't abandoned. Lights were turning on across its surface, one by one, thousands of them, then millions. The entire vessel awakened. Across the galaxy, every sensor suddenly activated. Every communication system received the same signal, and this time, it wasn't a heartbeat. It was a voice, deep, ancient, and unmistakably alive. The heir has returned. Jack stepped backward. Who are you? The answer came instantly. We are what your ancestors were afraid of. The stars around the gate began to disappear. Not exploding, not fading, simply disappearing. One after another. A darkness spread across the universe like ink through water. Lena looked at the navigation screen. Jack, what? The gate isn't connected to another location. Jack looked at her. What is it connected to? She slowly turned toward him. Another universe. Silence. Jack looked back at the enormous ship. For the first time, he understood why the architects had built the gates. They weren't trying to explore the universe. They were trying to keep something out. The medallion suddenly began to glow. A symbol appeared in the air before Jack. The same symbol that had appeared in his first vision. But now there was something different beneath it. A countdown. 0 hours 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Jack stared at the numbers. What happens when it reaches 0? No one answered. Because everyone on the bridge already knew. The ancient voice returned. The first gate was only the beginning. The countdown continued. 0 hours 9 minutes and 41 seconds. Jack closed his fist around the medallion. Behind him, the fleets of 1,000 worlds began moving into formation. For the first time in galactic history, they were not preparing to fight each other. They were preparing to fight together. Jack looked at the approaching architect ship, then at the gate, then at the countdown. He smiled faintly. All right. Lena looked at him. All right what? Jack stepped toward the command deck. If the architects were afraid of what is coming, his eyes hardened. Then we're going to find out why. The fleets accelerated. The first gate began to expand, and somewhere beyond the darkness, something enormous opened its eyes. To be continued.